Aerodrome, the largest decentralized exchange on the Base network, as well as Velodrome, the largest decentralized exchange on the Optimism network, are coming together and merging under one single umbrella, the Aerodrome umbrella. Now, ultimately, both of these projects were created by the same team. Matter of fact, while most of us know Aerodrome, Velodrome actually came first and started offering services in June of 2022. Now, the thing is, Velodrome grew all the way up to a peak of $318 million before eventually dying out to its current TV of $45 million. The reason being, well, more people use Base than use Optimism, and Optimism isn't used nearly as often, so the logical next step is to incorporate this to create one powerful brand as opposed to dividing team as well as funding resources and ultimately spreading themselves thin. Now, this is happening sometime in Q2 of 2026, and the reason why this is important is because it's basically like two very successful sister restaurants that have the same owner merging into one bigger chain. They ultimately share recipes, and they're able to cut costs, expand to new cities, and the combined business is stronger than either one alone. I mean, for example, if there is more trading activity for a certain period over in the Optimism network, that benefits the Base holders. Same thing vice versa, because everything is being incorporated under one Aerodrome umbrella. And if you are holding Aero or Velo and you're kind of unsure what's going to actually happen, well, both old tokens are actually going away. However, everyone is going to get a new unified Aero token instead. Now, the split is not 50-50 because, to be frank, that would not be fair. Aerodrome made $260 million last year, whereas Velodrome made $15 million. So ultimately, it will be divided based on that. About 94.5% of the new unified Aero token will go to Aero holders, and the other 5.5% over to Velo token holders. Now, the company behind Aerodrome Velodrome, called Dromos Labs, is also introducing something called MetaDex 03. Now, MetaDex 03 has a bunch of new functionality and features on the back end of it. As a trader, there's some new benefits, and as a liquidity provider, there are some new benefits as well. And the main thing is focusing around sustainability and making sure that this product can scale. You see, there's always been this argument that Aerodrome would eventually die out because ultimately it was hyperinflationary. They would mint new Aerodrome tokens, put new tokens in circulation to pay out the people that are providing liquidity. And that can be reflected by just simply looking at the income statement for Aerodrome over the past couple years. I mean, in Q1 of 2024, they put $60 million of tokens in circulation. In Q2, $188 million in circulation. Q3, another $95 million. Q4 of 2024, $173 million. Now, obviously, the market has kind of died down since then as well, but also they have been pivoting to a more sustainable model. As you can see in Q1 of 2025 at $96 million in tokens in circulation. By the end of the year, Q4, they're only putting $40 million. In Q1 of 2026, they put 20 million tokens in circulation, down substantially from the $188 million peak in Q2 of 2024. And the shift that the Dromos Labs team is making towards sustainability is actually very exciting, especially as somebody that holds Aero. Now, I personally do not have any allocation to Aero, but my main reason for holding off on actually purchasing Aero was because of the inflation mechanism, and I personally did not think the project was sustainable. But at current state, after the announcement that they made in November of last year, as well as where they're headed, it's starting to actually look a lot better for Aero token holders. Now, here's the thing. There are many different revenue aspects, but the first thing that I want to do is break down exactly what is coming in MetaDex 03, because that matters for the revenue streams. The first aspect of MetaDex 03 is Slipstream V3 MEV auctions, essentially. So essentially what they are doing is embedding MEV auctions directly into the automated market maker as opposed to having them external. This internalizes the value that is usually lost to arbitrage bots and prevents that from obviously being lost to just random bots that are arbitraging prices constantly. So if we were to put that in plain English, right now when you make a trade, there are bots that front run your trade and then they pocket the profit. In other words, if you are buying an asset at, let's just say, $1, but you can sell it somewhere else for $1.01, those bots go and front run your trade, they buy it up before you, and then they sell it for a profit on another market. But Slipstream V3 makes those bots actually pay the protocol to have that privilege, meaning that the money flows back to the Aero holders instead of just disappearing to the bots. Another one is meta swaps. So these are one-click cross-chain swaps. Basically trade from, say, the Ethereum network over to the Base network, over to the Optimism network by just simply executing a what looks to be normal swap. In plain English, if you want to swap USDC on Base for ETH on Optimism, You have to bridge your USDC from Base over to Optimism, and then after you bridge, you go and you swap your USDC on Optimism into ETH. It's very annoying and it's very slow, but MetaSwap does it in one click. It's like just executing a normal swap, except it's executing cross-chain. And if you know me, you know I'm big on the Ethereum network because the DeFi TVL right now is $85 billion, and Ethereum makes up for $45 billion of that. And while Base is big, it has $5.5 billion in TVL. It's a small fish in the sea compared to the Ethereum network. And ultimately, the Dromos Labs team is expanding into the Ethereum network. They're deploying beyond the Base and Optimism network, and they will be deploying on Circle's permissioned Arc chain, which is another catalyst as well. But the thing is, Ethereum is where the serious money lives, and Arc is a new chain built specifically for stablecoin flows. Circle, being the company behind USDC, one of the largest stablecoins out there, is a huge stamp of approval and, of course, an unlock for institutional volume coming over to Aerodrome, bringing in more revenue into the ecosystem. And, of course, as we already discussed, the move towards sustainability. A backtest showed that there was $103 million more in revenue and $34 million less in emissions across the October 2024 to October 2025 period. What that means is they are putting less tokens in circulation and they are making more money, which can be reflected back to the token holders. In other words, more dollars for token holders, basically. Now, very quickly, I do want to mention that the new version of Aerodrome will be supported on Metrics v4, which Metrics v4 is a simulation, backtesting, and tracking engine for your DeFi portfolio. Supports all the top decentralized exchanges, and it is launching on May 26. Now, we have a bunch of fun and exclusive launch offers for those that sign up live to the launch event. So if you guys want to put your name on the list, it's a free seat, and there's going to be a live training associated with it. The link is at the top of the description. But anyways, diving back into it, the core engine of revenue is the swap fees. Every trade on the protocol pays a fee, and 100% of those fees flow over to the people that are staking their Aero and using that staked Aero, or VE Aero, to vote on the pool. So in other words, if there is a trade in ETH to USDC pool and that generates, say, $1,000 in fees, then the people who have the VE Aero that vote on the ETH to USDC pool ultimately receive the revenue from those trades in the ETH to USDC pool. And again, this is going to be the bulk of the revenue because Aerodrome alone generated $260 million in revenue over the trailing 52 weeks before the announcement, and that's almost entirely from the swap fees alone. Now, the next aspect is going to be the MEV auction revenue. Now, this is a new revenue stream, but it's the biggest fundamental change in MetaDex 03. Slipstream v3 embeds MEV auctions directly into the automated market maker, which ultimately means that the bots don't make money and rather the Aero token holders get revenue, right? So that bid revenue, though, gets captured by the protocol instead of just leaking, and then ultimately that goes back into the ecosystem. There's also bribes and incentives. Other protocols can come over to Aerodrome and incentivize their own liquidity pool, or even any liquidity pool, on the platform with their own token. And while this isn't directly protocol revenue, ultimately this money flows back over to the Aero token holders or people that are voting on the pools. And then there's MetaSwaps. Obviously, cross-chain trading is going to generate fees, whether it's a routing fee, whether it's just a simple trade fee, and that right there is going to bring revenue into the ecosystem as well. Now, really, these are great aspects, but what I care most about is how value reaches token holders. And that's called the VRM framework. It's something that we developed at my consulting firm that's helped deploy over $50 million in these markets. And ultimately, the way that this revenue ties back into the Aero token holders is you have to lock up your Aero tokens into VE Aero, and then when you go and you vote on specific pools, you earn a share of the swap fees from the pools that you vote for, or any bribes paid to those pools for voting in those pools. And then, of course, you have your pro rata share of the new Aero emissions. And again, the key thing to focus on here is fewer emissions, meaning less inflation, and more revenue flowing into token holders, meaning that there's more profit to flow in. So less dilution and, of course, more revenue is a good equation for success right there. Now, if you guys are excited for the new Aerodrome launch and you're going to hold the Aero token, I want you to comment right below this video. Just say Aero in the comment section. I'll be happy to make some more content around this launch as well as the actual Aerodrome infrastructure. Now, that being said, once again, don't forget to go put your name on the free list to the live training that we're hosting on May 26th on how you can completely change the game when it comes to your liquidity provision, whether it's on Aerodrome, Velodrome, or any other platform, including Uniswap, Orca, Radium, so on and so forth. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.